The name you trust, with the news you need. Midlands Today. Midlands 103.
Time for Headaches and Heartaches. Rory Hafford, author and psychotherapist from 4 in County Westmeath, is here. He also works at Lusnagrena Family Resource Centre in Longford. Boy, have we got a doozy to start with.
You go on. Hit us with it.
So this, by the way, is not the lady's real name. Amy in Leash, not her real name, says her child is in school with another child who is identifying as a cat. Yes, you heard right, a cat. Amy can't get her head around it, and another parent informed her, actually, they're called furries.
Yes.
So she wants to know, what are furries, and how should she explain it to her child?
If there was ever a cancel culture question, this is it.
Well, get us cancelled.
Okay. So long as you're giving me license to do that.
Get us cancelled.
Yeah. Okay, first off, furries. What are furries? I've consulted large and wide on this question. And furries, basically, there's no big mystery to it. Furries are just the name that's given to people who like to dress up as small animals. Being, Jack Russells or foxes or in this case, cats. So they now have a collective name and it's called furries. So that's the answer to that thing.
Are they kids?
For the most part. Yeah, for the most part. I was thinking about this, and there are so many angles and directions that you can take on it, but each one is fraught with danger and comeback and people being offended and taking action and all that kind of stuff, to the point that in most cases you can't even talk about it. You can't even highlight it. If somebody is dressed as a cat. Now, and my mind has gone back to when I was in school, back in the Boer War. If somebody came in dressed as a cat or a giraffe, you want to have some neck for that uniform, what would they be met with?
Derision. Kicking the you-know-where, and we've had many comments to that effect. Can I draw a parallel just for a moment? So, do you remember Corporal Klinger in MASH?
Love him.
The transvestite.
Yes.
Dressed as a woman.
Yeah.
But he didn't identify as a woman.
He didn't.
These people who are furries and dress as a cat, generally, do they identify as a cat? Or is it just cosplay?
Yeah. Well, I can't answer that question. And I think, for the most part, neither can they. Because what we're looking at here are, to my mind anyway, being 110 years old, are children. Okay? And for the most part, psychologically, they are going through a phase. Okay? So there is a psychology, and it's not even too deep a psychology, but there is a psychology at play on this. So essentially, if somebody came to my clinic dressed as a cat, I wouldn't be looking at what they're wearing or the script that they have learned to accompany this. I'd be asking why. Why are you dressing, and particularly why a cat, when you could pick any other animal in the world? So, and it could be argued that, well, they have seen, I guarantee you 100% that the initial idea for this was online. So remember, the online world is the new Wild West. So the initial idea, I would say, came from that. That's the first thing. But why a cat out of all the animals? Well, cats get cuddles, and cats are cute, and cats are fed, and people look after them. So for me, that would be from a psychological point of view, that would be the sentence that I would move into. They get looked after, which really translates, Will, to they get love. And I think when you look at all this stuff on the internet, there are two big things missing from it. One is connectivity, connection, real connection with another human being. And the other is love and acceptance. So maybe this story that we're dealing with now is a cry simply for that.
Now, but hang on.
Go on.
Acceptance.
Yeah.
I remember being maybe 4 or 5 years old on the Curragh Plains chasing after the dog and got down on all fours because I thought maybe I can go as fast as the dog.
Yeah.
And that's fine at 4 or 5. I didn't go home and eat dog food.
Yeah.
I didn't back into a thistle when going to the toilet. How far should parents indulge this?
Well, the world has changed. And now it seems to me that we are all about acceptance, certainly, but the acceptance has got skewed as well. The acceptance now is, well, whatever the child decides to do, we have to go with that. That has to be indulged because it could be a phase. But you know, the scary thing for me is that it might not be a phase. Okay, but the child has to be indulged. Which brings us to another point in relation to all of this. It's children. And remember, the brain and the mind is not mature enough to handle all this freedom that they are given. And all this power, Will. This is about power. This is like, a kid suddenly finding, well, we'll say in America, finding daddy's gun. And they have all this power and they don't know where to point the gun and what to do with it, but they do know that they are a threat. Now, this falls into a similar vein. They are a threat by virtue of the fact that you can't say anything to them. You can't be derisory towards them. You have to choke everything. I'm looking at your face. You have to choke everything down and let them get on with it.
But does it mean, and there are enough texts coming in to suggest there's some truth in this, that there is a school here in the Midlands, we cannot say where, that has created a separate toilet for a student who is a furry.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's a litter tray in there or not.
Yeah.
I'm being a little bit facetious, but my point being, how far does society indulge this before it becomes wrong?
Well, you see, this is the great unknown, and this is the scary part. So we're old enough to see the genesis of people identifying as other things, not even as other people or other sentient creatures. We have people now identifying as strawberries and chairs and tables. You know that. And they identify and define themselves as this thing. And you can't say anything about it.
Hang on. You could argue, if they want to do that, knock yourself out, do it all day long, you're doing no harm, etc. It's when others have to, in some way, accommodate it that it becomes a source of tension.
Absolutely. There was. I do martial arts and have done since I was 12. Last year, there was an incident with a woman who came in and she was inquiring about the club and said, "Oh, that's where you do the training, and that's the male toilet, and that's the male dressing room, and that's the female dressing room. Where's the third one?" And I'm thinking, okay, we're through the looking glass here. Now, there is a little joke about this, which I think kind of sums the whole thing up.
Careful now.
Yes. Oh, no, it's good. No, it's completely clean. Years and years and years ago, the joke was about RTE. In RTE, they were the first people in the country to have 3 toilets. One for men, one for women, and one for Bosco. Because nobody knew what the hell that thing was. Now, for me, sometimes the only thing you can do is actually laugh at this stuff. Because how are you going to fix it? Because firstly, people who are going through this will say, well, what are you fixing? I'm not broken. There is no problem. This is just the way I am in the world.
But the dilemma for Amy, again, not her real name, is that her child is asking questions. And you've been in school, I've been in school. We all recall how somebody who was different became a target.
Oh, yeah.
Whether you had glasses or whether you had long hair or whatever your particular difference was.
Or whether you were even a slight bit more talented. That's a threat. That's a difference.
Yes.
Yeah.
But where a child is making a decision that they are a cat, they are patently not a cat.
Yes.
Does the parent have an obligation to protect them from bullying by dismissing it?
Okay. There was a case in England, a similar case, where a young girl dressed up and identified as a cat. And this is true, by the way. And one of her classmates, a boy, asked her something. And she said, "Sorry?" And he repeated, and she went, "Meow." And he answered with, "Woof." She reported him. And he was chastised for that. Now, unpack that for a second. For me, the danger in that is not are people dressing up in weird ways. They are empowered. They are empowered. Why would you dress like that? You can't say, well, I want to blend in or I want to disappear. You dress to stand out for that, because most human beings look for affirmation through talents or differences or skills or whatever. So is this something similar, looking for affirmation? It could be argued that yes, it is. But in the woke culture, some people, they balk at you even looking at this, let alone addressing it and talking about it. Now, again, it's back to this, with this question, I did have, I wanted to lighten it up a bit with a couple of jokes, and I'm thinking, 95% of people listening to this would probably giggle with the jokes, but 5% wouldn't, and they take it very seriously. And the world that we live in today, all the attention goes on the people who complain, the cancel culture people, the easily offended, the woke group of people. So before you open your mouth, particularly on something like live radio, you have to know that you're dealing not just with one audience, but with myriad audiences. And within that, you can get people. And in
Do you want to know how to offend somebody in 2024?
Go on.
Have an opinion.
The home of the Midlands Today Show.
Right here. Let's turn it up.
Monday to Friday from 9 a.m. Midlands 103.
Kate, who says it's not her name, but she's a common sense woman. You'll find there isn't a legal requirement for schools to accommodate children identifying as furries. It's very unsettling for all concerned, and we need to ask the question, where does this stop and common sense prevail? Parents need to be more involved in the parenting of their children. It's not a teacher's job to inform social ways.
I couldn't agree more with that. It's on this whole issue, it's time that we all sat down and had an adult conversation about it, because it's just getting worse.
I'm going to summarise a lot of messages around the cat and how far you take it and do you neuter them. And a final one from John. For anybody who agrees with a person identifying as something else, I want to identify as a millionaire and I'm going to the bank to insist upon it. Thanks, John. David in Portlaoise is his real name. He is suffering from insomnia and he's wondering what advice would Rory offer.
Get some sleep. That wasn't nice. That wasn't nice. Okay.
The man wants to get sleep.
He does. The man wants. David, thanks for writing in with this. This is much more common than you could imagine. Okay? And for the most part, the etiology or the cause of this is a kind of a restless mind. That when you lie down, your mind is going at a million miles an hour and you just can't switch the thing off. And people do come up with good suggestions in relation to cleansing the bedroom and removing all the stuff that will act as a distraction and all the rest of it. But I'll ask David now, where is his phone when he's in bed? That's the one thing. Because
guaranteed it's beside him.
Guaranteed. Because that is the one thing to pull you away from what it is that you're doing. I mean, the addiction to these devices it's endemic. It's phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. And again,
here's the catch-22.
Go on.
On some nights when you're lying there and you can't sleep and you're bored, do you reach for the phone or not?
Yeah.
It'll help you pass the time, but it'll also wake you up.
Oh, completely, yeah. And the other thing, I'm not qualified in this stuff, but the thing with, there is some, the electricity of the phone, even the screen coming at you.
The blue light.
That's the one, yeah, and it awakens you. The brain is now awake suddenly, you know? It's just phenomenal. So that's the first question I'd ask David. Where the hell is your phone? Get rid of it. Switch it off. Leave it out in the kitchen. And people go, yeah, but what if? Irrelevant. Leave it out there.
Assume, and he doesn't say it, but maybe he's ruminating. There's a thought churning around in his head. Yeah. How to control that?
Yeah. Okay. So, first off, on a philosophical level, and this is difficult to grasp sometimes, we are not our thoughts. We're certainly not our body, even though we spend practically all our lives looking at, honing, regretting the body. We're not our body. We're not our thoughts. Okay? So, the rumination is about an event that happened. It's just an event. But if you step back behind all that stuff, because rumination, catastrophization, washing machine thinking, it's all the same stuff. It's all designed to get you worked up and worried and stressed and all the rest of it. It's just an event. Step back from the event. It's a bit like, in the clinic, I do this little story. I say, if a train pulls into a deserted station and there's only 3 carriages on it, so clearly it's an Irish train, and the first carriage is marked depression, the second is marked anxiety, and the third is marked stress. Which one are you getting on? Now, you'd be amazed at the amount of people who will pick one. And they'll go, well...
I was going to stand on the platform.
Yeah, but that's the answer to it. The answer is you don't get on the train at all. You simply stand back and let it go. Simply because these signs, symptoms, feelings, thoughts come in doesn't mean you have to get on board with them. You can just stand back and let them go. Now, there's a deeper philosophical element to that, which I will not bore you and the listeners with at the moment, but the next step on this is a very, very powerful one. So just stand back. You do not have... Like migraineurs. I just thought I'd throw in some French to push up the interview. They are legendary for becoming the migraine sufferer. They'll feel the aura come in on top of them. Now, these are the people that I have spoken to who suffer from migraine. Not everybody. And they'll go, oh, that's me done now for 2-3 days. I'm going to lie down in a darkened room. So they become the migraine itself. They get on board. They get on the train and they go for the migraine ride. But you don't have to get on the train. You can stand back and just let this stuff go. Now, it takes training and it takes a different mindset, but it's easier than you think. And it's fantastic. The other thing I would say to David, rather than just talk about this stuff, I can give him some real examples. So what I've done in the past, I had a man who came to me who hadn't slept for 3 years.
At all?
3 years, at all. Maybe.
What condition was he in?
Oh, he was in a bad way. Yeah. Maybe he'd close the eyes for 10 minutes, or he closed the eyes for half an hour. But a full night's sleep for 3 years, nothing. Now, his wife was climbing the walls with this, so I did acupuncture with him. So as part of the psychotherapy that I do acupuncture for the psyche, because there's points on the body for depression, for stress, anxiety, all that kind of stuff, and insomnia. And just a couple of points, and I can go through them now if you want me to, but it's a bit technical.
Nearly 12 o'clock.
It is nearly 12 o'clock, yeah, and we're putting everybody to sleep now at this point. And I had him on the plinth or the gone in an instant with 1 point, Will, with one point called yin tang. If you want to Google that, folks, it's a point called yin tang. Gone out cold. 1 point. Now, there's other points, but it's just that this man was so exhausted and so depleted that 1 point worked miracles for him. So it's. But
I know of others who've had massage as well, and they found it beneficial.
Oh, it's great. Yeah, particularly deep massage. Yeah, it's fantastic. So here's the thing: if David wants to ring me about this, I'll put him to sleep. Well, you're putting me to sleep, says you.
Don't forget the show is repeated at midnight if you are an insomniac. Thank you very much for your time, Rory.
Thanks, Will. Pleasure.
And One Night is the name of the new book from psychotherapist and author Rory Hafford, who brings the programme to a close. Thank you, Sinead, for putting it together. Let's chat tomorrow morning in Moat from 9.
Midlands Today with Bus Éireann. Use your TFI Young Adult or Student Leap Card on board Bus Éireann services as part of the Transport for Ireland network. Visit buséireann.ie today.